A friend is someone who understands your past, believes in your future, and accepts you just the way you are. Unknown.
I love that journey for you, Alexis Rose.
No matter what happens in life, be good to people. Being good to people is a wonderful legacy to leave behind. Taylor Swift.
Wyoming is supposedly a state. Wyoming does not, in fact, exist. It is a distortion of space-time that only appears to exist. Anyone you've met who thinks they have been to Wyoming or believes they have lived in Wyoming have had fake memories implanted by the US government. This is because they cannot explain it, and it would cause a mass panic if the public knew the truth. If you attempt to drive into Wyoming, you will wake up in Canada, naked, and with no memories. Thank you very much, via Urban Dictionary.
Good morning. My name is Campbell Swift, and I'm a sixth form boarder from Chicago. Chicago is where I've grown up going to school, played club sports along the lakefront, and made most of my friends. It's the home of the Chicago Cubs, amazing restaurants, and easygoing Midwesterners. So I would argue it's one of the best cities, which I know is a bold statement to make in front of all of you New Yorkers. As much as I love Chicago, ever since coming to boarding school, I spend most of my time on a ranch in Boulder, Wyoming. Boulder is one of those towns that you drive into, and the green road sign reads, elevation 7,016 feet and population 75. Not 7,500 or even 750, but 75. So, in other words, sunscreen is a must every day of the year, and being okay with minimal human interaction is also helpful. My summers at the ranch are filled with an endless amount of family time. I have 4 siblings who mean the world to me. My older brother, Nate, graduated from Westy in 2019. My twin sister, Sophie, goes to Millbrook with my other younger sister, Scout. And then there's Ben, who just decided to join the Westy class of 2025. And of course, we have the leaders of the fam, my parents, Sarah and Blake Swift. Most weekdays, my sisters and I wake up and ride horses for a couple of hours and then join the rest of the family to either go fishing, hiking, biking, or help out on the ranch, haying, or irrigating the fields. But when Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights roll around, we suit up to go into work at Pitchfork Fondue. We put on white long-sleeve shirts, our boot-cut jeans, cowgirl boots, and of course, our massive Grand Champion belt buckles that each of us put years of hard work in to win at the Sublette County Fair Horse Show. Pitchfork Fondue is a restaurant located at the Pinedale Rodeo Grounds, and it stares right up at the striking Wind River mountain range. Its prime location is a perfect place for all of the backpackers, road trippers, locals, and fishing guides. While the atmosphere and views seem to be the catch of the restaurant, they are not. The real excitement that comes with dining at Pitchfork Fondue is when your steak or chicken is brought to your table on a sizzling hot pitchfork just out of the bubbling pot of oil it cooked in. It's an interesting place that I've happened to be a waitress at for the past few summers. The nights are always busy and fun, bringing in all sorts of people from all around the country. Now that you know the basic information, it's time to tell you all a story. It was just another Friday night at Pitchfork Fondue. My sisters and I were in the kitchen chopping up fruit and salad, rolling silverware, and prepping for the busy night ahead. As we were working, we listened to the local radio station, KPIN Pinedale, which played the same 7 songs on a constant loop. It was a hot day in late July, peak season for the restaurant, and it was just the 3 of us, as our coworker Katie had the day off. I was outside setting salt and pepper shakers on each of the picnic tables when my boss, Matt, waved me over into the kitchen. I was anticipating the usual nightly pep talk, so I was a little confused when I saw two older-looking men standing in the kitchen. One of them was taller with white hair flowing out from underneath his baseball cap. He wore a t-shirt-styled collared shirt and carried a personal cooler. The other guy was much shorter, and he wore cowboy boots, a collared shirt, and of course, a cowboy hat. Both seemed to me to be in their 70s. Matt, my boss, said, "Swift girls, I want to introduce you to some of my good friends, and now your coworkers. This is Mike, and this is Vance." We shook hands and continued on for a minute or two. The usual, "Where are you from?" "Oh, Chicago. Well, how'd you end up here?" I responded by saying, "Well, our grandparents moved out here about 50 years ago and started a cattle ranch." Vance, the taller man with the white hair and baseball cap, said in his deep voice, "I actually knew your grandmother, Sally." I smiled, remembering the few memories I had with Grandy. I wasn't at all surprised, in a small town like Boulder, that he knew my grandmother. In a small town, everyone ends up knowing everyone, and most locals I had met over the years knew at least one of my family members. After a little while, it got quiet and awkward, so everyone went back to work. That night, when work slowed down, my sisters and I went over to sit with our new coworkers. At first, they gave off a tough presence, but as we talked, I realized it was all just their sarcastic nature. They told us about their friendship dating all the way back to their childhood, and we explained our lives in Chicago. Vance then went on to regale us with stories about her grandmother, who I'd only known for the first 8 years of my life. Funny enough, they are both board members at the local museum and worked on several projects together. So, I guess you could say they were acquaintances. As work continued that summer, I always looked up in anticipation that Vance and Mike would walk through the door. Vance was usually there a couple of times a week, while Mike was less of a regular. When he was there, though, he was always entertaining. He would constantly poke fun at Vance and joke around throughout the entire night. By the end of the summer, I knew all about their families, and they had come to know all of us in our family. When my parents would come with my brothers for a pitchfork dinner, Vance and Mike always made an effort to get to know them. Vance would always gush about his granddaughter Lily, who he claimed would get along great with you girls. In fact, we do get along great with Lily. I worked with her this past summer and have remained in touch with her throughout the year. All of the stories about each other's families were fun, but the moment I knew we were real friends was when Vance started to share all of the insider tips to fishing in the area. Locals treat that information like gold, so I considered it to be a big breakthrough. As I look back now, I consider the night I met Vance to be the start of one of my first true Wyoming friendships. I'd met kids in the past at the county fair while showing horses, and I'd gotten to know a couple of coworkers, but Vance has become a real friend. He genuinely seems to care for me and my sisters. He always looked out for us at work and never failed to compliment our work ethic. He shared memories of my grandmother, endless advice regarding the hidden fishing secrets of the area, and introduced us to his granddaughter Lily, who has become a close friend. I've always loved people, and I've been quite fortunate to have grown up surrounded by a wide variety. If we all look around the chapel, or wherever you might be on campus, and think about all of the various backgrounds that we all come from, it's amazing to realize how connected we all are on this one campus. That's an advantage that you don't get in the real world. It's always easier to connect with those who share the same interests and lifestyles, but I've learned sometimes the least likely friends are the ones who have the biggest impact. Yes, I realize it's odd to be friends with a 75-year-old man, but I've taken away lessons and stories from Vance that I would not be able to get from anyone else. I've also learned to keep an open mind when meeting new people. The last day of work that summer, my sisters and I were standing in the kitchen setting up for our last night at Pitchfork Fondue. Vance came walking through the door with 3 bouquets of flowers. My sisters and I all stood there in awe as he handed each of us a bouquet, accompanied by his business card, which I continue to carry around in my wallet so that we can stay in touch throughout the school year. For as long as I can remember, I've always hated saying goodbye to people. Even after a long break at home spent with my family, I still tear up as I hug them goodbye. I usually end up standing at Midway Airport with tears in my eyes until I see Beck Windsor lugging his hockey bag through the airport. That's usually when I decide to pull it together. so I may have shed a tear or two when saying goodbye to Vance. I realize that in just about 6 weeks, I'll be having to say goodbye to all of you as well, which I realize will not be easy for me. All of the friendships I've made here might seem to be over. But just like the business card I will always carry around in my wallet, I know that there's a contact in my phone for all of you. As we all move on in life, remember to keep an open mind while meeting people, because you never know who might become a great friend. Thank you.